Warning: the following podcast, which contains strong language and mature content, is unsuitable for children or for the faint of heart. The subject matter discussed will be frightening and graphic in nature. Listener discretion is advised.
When you want to hear about the paranormal, you get the Spooked Girls. True crime that makes you hypothermal. With the three Spooked Girls, stabby snippets will give you dreams. Tara and Jessica will make you along with the Spooked Girls. Bring on the slaughter, we on that haunted ground. Spooked Girls. The three Spooked Girls.
Hey there, Spooksters, and welcome back to another episode here on Three Spooked Girls. My name is Jessica, and as always, I'm joined by my favorite gal pal, Tara.
Hey, Spooksters.
Today, we are doing a short documentary on Netflix called The Quilters. But before that, let's do our little where to find us on the internet, and then we'll dive right into this documentary. If you would like to follow us on social media, our handle is at 3 Spooked Girls. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, all the places. We're at 3 Spooked Girls. You can also join our Facebook group, which is 3 Spooked Girls Official on Facebook, of course. And we have a Discord. If you would like to talk about this show or Social Seance, go over there and hang out with us, and you can interact with other Spooksters and discuss episodes, what's going on in the media, whatever you'd like. Really, we're down for it. So definitely check those out. Like I mentioned, we have a second pod, if you didn't know that, the Social Seance Society. We're in season 2, which is really fun. And we've talked about like the things that we're having that's upcoming. So you definitely want to check those out. I'm really, really excited about it. It's forced me to read, not forced me, but it's given me an excuse to detailedly read one of my favorite series again. And I've started reading the illustrated guide, which just you wait, guys. I'm going to have so much information. You're going to be like, Jessica, your brain is melting for no reason, but it'll be fun. So definitely check it out if you want more Tara.
It's about Twilight. You didn't mention what it was. We did mention it last episode, but in case you missed it.
We are going to be doing a deep dive. I have been reading the illustrated guide and know way too much about everything now. And I'm like, ooh, I've always wanted to know this. I should have bought the illustrated guide years ago. So I have been really good. You don't understand, guys. Like, it's really hard for Tara and I not to talk about things that we really like love. So if I'm like really interested in something, I just like word vomit and text to Tara, and she does the same thing to me. But I have been, Tara, tell them, I've been so good. I have not word vomited at all.
Yeah, we've been keeping it in.
You guys wait. We have a lot of those kind of projects coming up on Social Seance Society, so you definitely want to check it out for the remainder of our summer season and then our spooky season. And then if you are a reader, if you are a bibliophile, you should definitely check out our book club. It's the Spookster Literary Society. For the month of June, we're going to be reading Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. So check it out. We are on the book club app. Check out our link tree. It'll take you everywhere you want to go. So if you are interested in joining, because I know that this is a popular book that's been going around, and if it's on your TBR and you're like, hey, I want to read this with other people and talk about it, come join us and talk about it. And if you want to help support the show, you can do so by heading over to patreon.com/3 Spooked Girls, or again, the link tree, it'll take you there. For little as $1, you get a bonus episode each month. $5 and up patrons get an extra bonus episode right now, which is our Gypsy Rose Live After Lockup recap. And there's other things that go along with that. So you definitely want to check it out. It has been so much fun doing the Gypsy recap because, I mean, it's literally my favorite drama that's happening in the world right now. Mm-hmm. So if you want to hear what Tara and I are thinking or think about the show, come over and check it out. Like I said, that's our $5 up, and $5 and up get ad-free episodes the day before. So if you want us sooner, that's the way to do it. So now we are going to get into this episode. We are recapping the Netflix. Well, it's on Netflix. It's not a Netflix documentary, but it is the documentary called The Quilters. It came out in 2024. I believe it's filmed either in 2022 or 2023. And it is about inmates who quilt for foster kids and autistic children. It's very short. It's 33 minutes long, and it was directed by Jennifer McShane, and IMDb gave it an 8.1 out of 10. So I think it's really good. It's set in a prison called South Central, and it's a level 5 maximum security prison in Licking, Missouri. It starts off, there's several men that we're going to meet throughout this, but the first man that we meet, his name is Chill. His full name is William, but he goes by Chill, and he has been sentenced to 25 years for first-degree assault. He says it right on the show. I did look up people afterwards, but he did share why he was there. So I feel very comfortable sharing. He served 8 years up to the point of this time. But like I said, he'll be there for 25 years. When he says, it's kind of interesting because it's like the first part of it, he's like walking through like the normal part of the prison. And he's just like, looks like a prisoner. You don't really have any distinguishing features from him. And he says that when he's around the other inmates, he has to be like the big bad wolf because they can't see him be weak. And he's very much like he puts on this front in front of the other prisoners. But then when he goes to work, he says once he walks through that door, the emotions change. And he works for the ROJ, which is the Restorative Justice Office at the prison. And he works in the sewing room, which I was like, oh, well, it's called Quilters. So I don't, of course, they sew. And so what they do is they put this like words up on the screen and it says that these inmates create quilts for foster kids on their birthday, which I was like, immediately my heart melted because I was like, oh my God, that's so special. And so just so that you know, every single kid in the surrounding counties of this prison, foster kid, gets a blanket on their birthday. And they put it in there and they have their names and their ages and like things that they like, what kind of quilt they want. And so we're going to meet several people. The only person listed as a cast member, because they're the only person who could make money from this, is a man by the name of Joe Satterfield. He is the restorative justice coordinator. So he helps, like, he just basically like coordinates everything. Like he talks to the foster agencies. He gets all the information. He interacts with the prisoners. It's always so interesting because like, you never really know how you feel about Joe's type of position because you're like, how do you treat people? But I will say Joe seems like a pretty decent guy in there. And
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The men who are in here, this is not their quote job. This is their volunteer position. So they come anywhere between like 7:30 in the morning to 3:30 in the afternoon, and they spend there and they make quilts for these kids. We meet a man by the name of Jimmy. He's an inmate. He's in there for life. I did Google something because I wanted to find out like more information. So I did find out why Jimmy was in there. It's not good. Let's just put it this way. He's in for life for a reason.
Yeah.
He actually has 2 life sentences. So you see Jimmy and he's like sewing and he's kind of talking about his projects and everything like that. And then you meet another gentleman whose name is Fred, and he is working on this huge quilt. It's like a hippie theme. So it's like got bright colors and it's kind of psychedelic-y. It's going to have over 3,500 squares. I was like,
holy cow, so many.
Right. And I love them, like how these men think, like they really care. This isn't something like they just go in there and they throw shit together and then they ship it out. Like they really care about this. These men spend so much time like caring about it. They like write it out. They do these little graphs and everything. They spend time putting this shit together. And then we meet a man who's kind of like the maestro of the quilters. His name is Ricky, and he literally is such a great, he's just this guy who's in there who's just like, he helps everyone. He's so like, oh, this is what you got to do. And I found out by reading an article, fun fact, that how Ricky got involved with this is that he was part of the maintenance crew and he fixed machines. And so he would come in and fix the sewing machines. And then they were like, oh, you should do this. By the way, how Jimmy got involved, I read in the article, is that during COVID, they were asking people to make masks because they didn't have enough masks. So Jimmy was making them and he was so good. They were like, you should be part of the quilting, like this quilting group. And so he was like, cool. So these guys generally are really good. And it's so interesting because like how each one of them approach doing their quilts is so different. There isn't like a one size fits all. Like Jimmy really looks at it like he's like, don't tell Ricky this will get mad at me, but I cut first and then graph everything out. And you could just tell that like Ricky's probably yelled at him before for like wasting scraps. So he starts cutting and imagining and like he'll go back to his bunk and he'll like, you know, like draw it out like the squares and then he fills it in the colors. Chill is different. He goes by color blocking. So he does like a big color in the middle, like whatever the blocking is. He does it by like, he calls it his 50-30. So it's like 50 inches by 30 inches. And then he starts building it out that way. And he does it by like colors. Porter, who is kind of the youngest person in this room and he's also the newest, he just kind of does whatever Ricky tells him. He's like, I'm just trying to learn. And you can tell that he's taking so much pride in it. And I honestly think like the dichotomy of this, like sewing is seen as such a feminine thing. And like in prison, it's like you have to be like ultra masculine. So to see these men like taking such pride in something that like Chill was right. Like if he goes out there and talks about it, that he might get made fun of in the yard for doing this, but they take such pride in it. And it's so beautiful that these men are like doing this really nice thing. And so they kind of describe what's happening around them as organized chaos. And they talk about it as a circle. It's cut, sew, iron, cut, sew, iron. So they're just kind of like always moving pieces. And again, they're getting these orders in and they're like, we just kind of have to roll with this, right? And I love it. It's absolutely a great watch. Chill kind of talks about the vibe of the place. And he goes, basically he says, not everyone grabs it, but like what I interpreted that is like, not everyone in the prison gets what they're doing, but the people in this room do get what they're doing and they care about it so much. And they all talk about how Ricky is the best teacher. Chill calls him sensei, which I think is cute.
Yeah.
Because it's really true. Like Ricky is the person they're like, Ricky, this isn't working. And he like runs over and he looks at it and he looks down and he sees that the edges aren't lining up correctly or whatever. And he's like, oh, this is why. And I do love that. It's almost like when someone else completes a quilt, he has this sense of like papa pride. Like he's like, yeah, I taught him how to sew. I taught him how to do this. And look at him, he did it. So I really loved that kind of like camaraderie that they have. Chill talks about how when he makes quilts, he tries to think of the kids who are going to get them. So he thinks, obviously he's more of like a visual, like textile type person. Like he sees the colors. So he's like, when I think girls, I think like pinks and purples and greens. And I think boys, I think like blacks, yellows and blues. And I'm like, that's really cool that like, that's kind of how he puts it together is like, who am I making this for? And I think the most beautiful part of this is Chill talks about how when he's in there and he's like doing his thing and he's sitting there and he's sewing, he doesn't feel locked up. He feels like he's out. I think this is so great because I think this gives him this like peace that he needs. And I think a lot of when we look at the prison systems, it's not meant to give people peace. It's not. It's meant to like detain people. And so this is the moment where not only are they doing something good for other people, but they're learning how to work through their own life. Like Tara and I are both crafters. Crafting is so cathartic because you're putting yourself into it. And then once you finish it, you're like, wow, I've done this. I've made one blanket like in my whole life. Like I've sewed one whole blanket in my life. And my friend's mom helped me do it most of the way. But there's a sense of pride at the end of it where you're like, I did this. Like I made this. And then they're doing this and then they're sending it off to a child who's going to, maybe this might be their only birthday present of the year. This might be their biggest thing that they get. And I don't know. It's so beautiful. When I watched this for the first time, it was like early on a Sunday morning. And I was like, Tara, I'm like crying right now. I'm like watching this and she's like, what is it about? And I told her and she's like, oh my God. So, and I swear it had just come out on Netflix like a couple of days before. I was like, I will watch this immediately.
Right.
It was so good. But for the program, at least that they're in, not everyone can be in the program. You must have 0 violations and 0 write-ups, so you can't be in trouble at all. And we talked to Joe a little bit more, and he talks about the fact that like, he treats them like humans because that's who they are. When he first said it, he's like, I treat them like humans. And then there was like way too long of a pause. And I was like screaming at not screaming, but like I kind of yelled at my TV because I'm like, they are people. What are you? And he goes, that's what they are. And like he said it in a way that it was like a secret. And I was like, no, Joe, we all know that they're people. They're humans.
Well, and that's also his way to be like, we all know they're not always treated like humans in prisons. Right. But when they're with me under my stuff, under my program, they are given that respect.
Right. Because he does. He talks about like, he doesn't try to think about what they did to get into prison. He just thinks about them as, the Chill he knows now. Obviously, he doesn't call him Chill. He calls him White because his name is William White. And then they start showing pictures of them, like these inmates that they know when they were younger. So they show pictures of Jimmy and his little Zorro cake. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cute. And they just kind of like show all of that. And then they show pictures of Ricky and they show pictures of Chill when they were younger. And then Ricky starts talking about why he quilts, right? Because it's, and he's like, it kind of reminds him of his mom. Like his grandma used to do this. So this is like the shit that he grew up with, like the patchwork quilts, those type of things. Because he takes a lot of scraps and like, so like they're beautifully done. They aren't like haphazardly tossed together. It's like he actually thinks about it and he puts it all together and he creates this like beautiful quilt for these children. And he talks about it like he got it from his mother. And Ricky at the time of filming is 64 years old and he got locked up in his 20s. He's been in prison for 38 years. And he talks about like, I had a good upbringing. Like I had parents who cared about me. I had all the things I needed, but I fell into, I got hooked up with the wrong people. He admits he was a drug addict. We meet a man at this point in time in the show called Jeremiah. And he's like, for me, it was alcohol. And they like talk about like, they kind of just fell in with the wrong crowd. And Ricky tells you, he's like, I murdered a person. He's like, I caught a murder case. And he's like, I talk about it. And I really love this particular section of this documentary because he and Jeremiah start talking about how they wished when they were younger they could take accountability the way that they take accountability now because they didn't, and that's why they ended up in prison for as long as they have. And Ricky isn't like, I shouldn't be in here. Ricky's like, I did what I did and I deserve to be locked up. They really talk about taking that responsibility when they were younger. Then the documentary pivots and like a box comes in and it has all these like scraps in it. So how they get, because at the beginning of it, I was like, how do they get all this fabric? Like, does Joe just go to Joann's and is like, I like this.
I hope you hit up the closing sale.
Oh yeah, no. Joann's, donate all your leftover shit to the prisons. Everything is donated. And at the end, I will tell you like how you can donate. Because the people might want to donate. Like if you're a quilter and you're like, I got all these scraps and I don't want to do anything with them. Like they've sat here for years. I know so many quilters like that. Well, I'm happy to tell you at the end. There's a guy, I couldn't find his name the whole time. I watched this thing twice and I like rewound it a bunch of times. There's a guy who kind of runs the material room. He's in charge of everything from like making sure that the actual like fabric is organized and put in spaces. And he kind of talks you through it. Like he's like, we have like adult ones and like, which those are more like florals and like leaves and stuff. And he's like, and then there's like kids ones that have like cartoons, or he's like, this one has donuts on it. He's like, this one has bacon on it. And he was like really excited about the bacon material.
Yeah.
And he also, even though he runs this room, he quilts as well. And then he also hands out what they call the sharps, which is like the scissors and the cutters and everything like that. And he talks about the system that they have because inmates aren't allowed to go in there. I think Ricky can go in there because he's probably like signed off on it, like as like he's kind of the lead of this place. But every inmate has a pouch and everything in that pouch is on a master log. And so when they check it in, it's probably this dude's responsibility to make sure that every single one of those items are in that pouch before they leave. Because, you can't just like walk around with scissors in a prison. That's a no-no. It's a big no-no.
Yeah, for sure.
And I love this because he's like, and thankfully nothing has ever happened like that. And I really think that these guys are truly like, we love this program. We don't want to fuck it up for people. So we're going to put our scissors back. We find out that Chill actually has a history of sewing in his past. He owned his own upholstery shop. And he talks about, I love this. He talks about the difference in like the materials he used because he was using like leathers and vinyls and stuff, and like how you had to really stretch stuff out. And so when he first started, it took him like a week to like figure out how to have soft hands. But you can just tell that this man truly loves to sew. I think it's so amazing when prisons have systems like this or programs like this because it teaches them a trade. Sewing is a trade. But you know how many times people will be like, I really wish there was a good like seamstress or like a good alterationist. I can't say the word right. Like around me, I really wish I could like find someone to do like to alter my pants, to like hem them. And people are like, I really hated the job that happened on it. And giving these people who are in there an actual trade will help them. And also like, I wish I knew how to sew. Like I literally have this Calvin Klein dress that I have to take to my friend Jen because there's like this little hole in the seam and I don't know how to sew it up properly. And so I have to be like, Jen, will you fix my dress? So, and this also has inspired me to want to learn to quilt. I'm like, I want to know how to do this.
Right. It's such a science though. I like knew, but I didn't know until they started explaining it. And I was like, oh my God, this is so much goes into this. It's so fascinating to me.
Right. And so Chill also talks about his love of the thing he loves to put into quilts is butterflies because his mom loves butterflies and he loves butterflies. And you can just see when he starts talking about butterflies, it is like watching the happiest person talk about what they love. And he does. He makes these beautiful butterfly quilts. And I could imagine being like a little girl, like a 12-year-old, and getting this beautiful butterfly quilt that you're probably going to have the rest of your life because it's well made. I mean, they are like fucking perfectionists. Something goes wrong, they sit down and they like open it back up. Like, but it's also like there's a notable change in these men. Chill talks about the fact that like before he was in this program, he was a different person. But now when he calls home, like he says his people hear it in his voice. And this is great because this is like a lot of times, like they've done studies where people who have long sentences just fucking give up at some point because they're like, I'm going to be here for another 20 years. What the fuck does it matter what I do? But if you were like, I get to go 5 days a week to sew and do really amazing things and make quilts for underprivileged kids, and that makes your heart sing, those 20 years, they're going to sail because you're doing something productive. And that's what I love about this program. And I think I'm out here, we talking about prison systems a lot in politics these days. Like, this is the type of shit that should be implemented in there where they're doing something that has an effect outside of them because people need hope. And that's what this is doing. Yeah. It's giving people hope.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, Jimmy has a life sentence. Like he knows he's not getting out, but this is giving him purpose and, you know, a good purpose. I mentioned earlier, like when they mess up, they take it seriously. Fred's working on this big hippie psychedelic quilt that has over the 3,500 squares and he messes up. Right. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I can't see it. I wish someone had been with me. I'm like, I wanted to be like, do you see it? Do you see what he fucked up on? No.
Right.
It looked perfect to me. He's like, no, it's the wrong way. And he was like, okay, I'm going to sit here. And he undid the whole thing. He undid 2 squares. Porter, who's like the younger guy, his name is Christopher Porter. He came over and was like, okay, he's like, how can I help you? He's like, I need this iron. And it was so funny because he's like, I'll do it really quick. You know, and like Fred looks at him like, what? And he's like, or as long as it takes me. Because I think, you know, there's this like, oh, I got to do it fast. But they're like, no, do it right. And so then Fred is like, why don't you help me put this back together? And so he showed him out like the way it should have been laid out. And he's doing it. And Fred is like, oh, these are really, really great. And then Fred starts talking about himself. And, you know, Fred gets locked up in his, like when he's in his 40s and he was just really angry. And then when his son in 2000, he was already locked up. So in 2000, his son needed a heart and lung transplant. And that's kind of a hard thing to get. He passes away and that just broke him. And he's like, I have to change who I am as a person. And then eventually this program, because this program has only been around for about 12 years at this point, he eventually joined it and it did change him. Another thing that these men do is they make weighted vests for autistic schools, which I think is fantastic. They show like, this is all of our stuff. Like, and it's funny because like, I think Ricky is just being like Ricky and he's like bouncing around and he's like kind of being neurotic about like what everything's doing. They're like, somebody put Ricky in the vest. So they put him in a vest.
Yeah.
And he was like, they'll calm him down. And I think it's so cute because they're just having fun, but they're also doing this really good thing. And the fact that like these men, they're not getting paid for their services. This is all volunteer. And these kids at like these autistic schools get help because those weighted vests cost a lot of money, but to have like people donate the materials, all of that stuff, it's really amazing. And then the guy who runs the material place that I can never find his name, he gets emotional because he's reading like a thank you. And it's like this worker at this autistic school is talking about how like these kids, like they've just changed since they've got this because it's helped calm them down. And I'm just like, this is what they need. And like those thank you letters coming in are reinforcing like what they're doing on the outside. They're seeing a finished product. And so when they're done, they just package it up and then they put them all together. And there's kind of like this big send off. I really loved it. And also the fact that Ricky's like, chill, come here. And he's like, what? And he made him like lay on him so that he could like get all the air out. It was like, it just kind of seemed like that was Chill's job. Like he deflates, he pulls all the air out and they tie it and they stack it up and Joe takes it, they put it in an office and then Joe takes it from the office into the back of this truck and then he takes them out to deliver to the, like, I'm assuming different foster agencies or different like child protective service agencies. And so I thought that was really, really great. But then a little bad thing happens. Our guy Fred gets in trouble. He gets a write-up. He's found with a razor blade, not for nefarious reasons. He was back in his room, like wanting to, I think, fix some of his clothes. And so I think he was like doing what he does in the shop, with the blade and he got caught and he gets a write-up, and you can't have a write-up or a violation on your record. I don't know how long that lasts. Like, I don't know if violations and stuff like fall off, or if like they become moot after a certain point, or, you know, like maybe it's like a point system and you get them removed. I don't know. But as of right now, as of May 17th, 2025, Fred is still not in the program because it was in an article that I read. So his quilt isn't done. So everyone kind of jumps in. Ricky and Porter, they jump in to finish it. And the one thing I think is really interesting is I believe it was Chill. He says, this reminds you of where you're at. Like, we're still in prison. He's like, you have to do better. And that's what this program teaches them. Like, we have to be better. We have to do better. And I just love how they're perfectionists. So they put Fred's quilt up, you know, to do. And Fred had talked about a few times throughout the process that this one was getting to him. Like, and so he didn't sew like a certain area, like it wasn't pulled tight enough. It wasn't correct. So when they went to do the final thing, which is they have this big machine, I don't know what it's called, but they basically like do this like design in it to help it all stay tacked down. We've all seen quilts that have fun, like swirly designs or stuff in it. They had to like pull it off that machine and then like open it up and like fix it. And Ricky's doing all of this, and Ricky's making it this big deal. And he's like, freaking Fred. And he's like real upset about it. It takes him a little bit, and then he does it. And then he's like, yeah, it's no big deal. And I'm like, oh, because like 4 minutes ago, Ricky, it was world ending, but that's okay. But I love that they're such perfectionists, and they want these to be perfect for these kids. They do not want to send out shoddy shit so that these kids have shoddy shit. Because it's like a lot of foster kids, this isn't their first foster home, or this isn't their first birthday spent in a foster situation. So they really are like, we have to fix the problem, which is kind of metaphoric for the situation that they're in. Ricky and the guy that runs the material place, they've actually served 25 years together. And I was like, I thought that dude was like maybe 35. And I was like, oh, so your whole life, you an infant when you came in here, sir? Like, what is happening? Were you 10? I'm so confused. How old are you? I need to know, like, what is your skincare routine? Is it that I need to know? You look so young. But that guy's actually like going down to a lower level because it's part of his way of getting out. So he's in a 5-level max security prison. Then he'll go down. I think he's going down to like a level 1, which means that he may, and he was like, maybe in like 3 or 5 years, I might be able to get out. And Ricky's like, you know, you can tell that they're actually really sad that they're leaving each other, like that this dude is going. But he's also like, nope, that Ricky's like, this is what happens when you serve a life sentence. Like, you see people come and go, and then they just go, and like, we're here. And I like that Ricky takes accountability for what he did. He doesn't glorify it. And he talks about like, because they, you know, that guy says, you know, because Ricky's like, I hope you get out to him. And the other guy's like, I hope you do too. Because, you know, he's not in there with like life without the possibility of parole. I'm sure he could get out. But Ricky looks at it from the perspective of like, how does that family feel? Like, how would that family feel if I got out? Like, I know what I did. I killed that person. And he's like, I don't want that family to feel like I'm not serving my time. So really, Ricky is taking total accountability for what he's done. And then he talks about letting the demons go. Because he talks about how like when he first came to prison, he got angry. He gave into his demons. He created a ruckus. And then over time, he like let those demons go. And he's kind of at peace with what he did. Not to say that he's not like, you can definitely tell that he regrets his decision, that he wishes he had done it differently, but he's at peace with who he is because he can't change his circumstances right now, but he can be a better person. And that's what he's doing. And then another thank you card comes in, and it's the 2 blankets that we see Chill has just worked on. The butterfly, they go to these 2 girls who like live in the same foster home, and they take pictures of the girls with the quilts, and then they send like a thank you card. And I think the girls, they write it to Chill because he's the one who made it. And then they thank the other guys as well for all their help. They're just like passing it around, and it's like watching grandpas read like Father's Day or Grandpa's Day cards or whatever, or like proud person like reading a report card. It's just so beautiful. And they like staple it up on the board because they want to remember this. And this is why they're doing it. You can just see the people get a little like misty and whatnot. It was beautiful. And this is kind of where it winds down. They tell you that over 2,000 quilts have been made through this ROJ program. And I think it's just beautiful that these men are doing this and that they're volunteering and whatnot. I did find an article of where are they now. Jimmy Williams, we met him. I talked a little bit about the fact that like he got into sewing because he was making masks during COVID and they really liked it. Unfortunately for Jimmy, he passed away on December 9th, 2023 from natural causes. You know, he was 69 years old, so he may have had health complications we don't know about. And then Ricky, whose name is Richard Sanders, he started in the program because he was fixing the sewing machines and he just kind of like fell in love with the process. He's still there and he actually actively recruits new members to this program. He seeks out people who he thinks are good. Chill or William White. He actually, this is what fucking blows my mind. He gets up at 2:30 every morning and does a 8-hour shift in the kitchen and then immediately goes from there to sew and spends 7 hours sewing.
Crazy.
Every day. And in the article, they ask him like, how do you do this? And he's like, I don't need that much sleep. I ain't doing that much. And I love to do this. So it's kind of like, I was sitting there as I was like reading the article. I was like, oh, Jessica, you can take all of your excuses about not having enough time in the day to do that and shove it right up your butt because he's in prison and he makes time. You can craft too, Jessica. I was like, okay, because I'm like, okay, so he literally works. He does an 8-hour shift on his feet in the kitchen and then turns around and does a 7-hour shift. And then at some point sleeps, has to shower, has to do like eat and stuff. So I'm like, sir, you need to teach people time management. Because the rest of us, we out here failing. Fred is still not in the program because he, had his infraction. And Chris Porter, the younger guy, he actually is still in the program and is doing quite well. So that's good.
Oh, good.
If you would like to donate, there are 2 ways you can do it. You can send a check off. It's to the RJO Foundation, which is P.O. Box 1045 in Newton, Iowa. And that zip code is 50208. Or you can just do the easier way, which is to go to rojmembers.com and you can find the things. There's also Project Linus if you want to donate materials. I don't really know how that works. I tried to figure it out, but my brain was like hurting and I couldn't figure it out. But I'm sure if you contact the people at ROJ, they would be able to help walk you through how to donate. I'm like, I kind of want to donate. I want to because I think this is a really great program. And I really want to see one like here in California that like I can donate to. I think this would be great. So
yeah, for sure.
But that's all I got on this. What were your thoughts? I know you watched it.
Yeah, I really liked it. I thought this was a good doc to add into the mix. It's one of those like unexpected, like little rays of sunshine, like it's something good. And I feel like the true crime world and the prison system as a whole doesn't always have opportunities for these little slivers of positivity. So I think it was great that they took the time to go film about this. And I think the program's great. And they talk a lot about like their purpose and stuff. And it's heartbreaking because, especially like those prisons where they have to cut stuff, this is always one of the first things to go. And it's so sad because it does give them this outlet because, everyone, you can't even say everyone, but like majority of people who are in prison, they've done something bad, illegal. And sometimes with those, we know these situations are complicated. So I think it's another really good way to help set them up for success for when they do get out, because not only are they learning to sew, they're learning how to like problem solve in healthy ways. They're given these like extra little things of freedom, like with the scissors and the things like that. Like they're not taking advantage of that and like hurting anybody or anything like that. So I think having these kind of programs is a really big deal. And I'm really glad that they made the doc because it was just nice to watch something kind of wholesome in a weird way. And because we get so much bad in the world. So I liked it. I think it's a good little watch. And yeah, definitely check it out, guys, for sure.
Yeah. Like I said, it's only 33 minutes long. So it's just kind of like perfect if you're like getting ready in the morning or something like that and you want to throw something on. And to kind of add to what Tara said, it's like the prison system is already so dark, but to have these men learn about people trusting them again, because like the scissors, like they have to be trusted to have those because they could easily steal them away. And also being able to give back. Like a lot of these people, they're in there because they've, you commit crimes against other people, and giving back to other people in a way that kind of is, I really do think is restorative and is kind of like doing your restitution in in a really good way. I think Ricky has turned this like really bad situation in his life into something that's going to heal a lot of men. I think it's beautiful. And I would love to see more of these things. Like, what are other prisons doing that are like this? I'd like to see that. So with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Thank you for joining us this week. And let us know what other documentaries you would like us to talk about. If there's other like little nuggets of joy out there that we should definitely watch, we would be happy to. So with that, we will see you back next week. Toodles.
Bye.
Hello, Toxic Avenger fans. You know what that theme song means. It's time for another exclusive audio clip from The Toxic Avenger in theaters August 29th. This time, we bring you the sounds of someone cooking breakfast and listening to the news. Enjoy.
From New Chemistry High School for varsity tournament season. Coach Stanwyck, what can we expect from the Crimson Beaks this year?
New Chem is gonna nuke them.
Wouldn't want to be the Kennedy Cougars this Saturday, huh?
Man, fuck the Cougars.
Fuck the Cougars! Oh my God. So switching gears, we have a special exclusive.
Okay, that's great. Do you want to be part of a winning team? Want to stand up against the forces of evil, like the Kennedy Cougars and beyond? Join the fight at I'mWithToxie.com and then see The Toxic Avenger in theaters on August 29th. That's I'mWithToxie, TOXIE.com.